Oh, I love that.
Hey waterfall 춤을 추는 waterfall 하늘 위를 나는 듯이 떨어져 I'm a waterfall 춤을 추는 waterfall 하늘 위를 나는 듯이 떨어져.
Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I am a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And today I am going to be reacting to BI's Waterfall performance version. So this was a request from one of the comments of a previous video, so thank you for your suggestion. I am excited to dive into this. I have not seen any other performance videos from BI besides BTBT, and so it's going to be really interesting to see what carries throughout all of his concepts. And I know Young Bean choreographed this routine just like he did for BTBT, but I know he collabed with Sean, and they're from the same crew, 82. So it'll be really cool to kind of see that be brought to life. So let's get into it. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I love the griminess and how grounded he is as he does this. Love the costume choice here. Oh, good lord. I can't wait to slow this one down. So there's a whoa that's being contributed, some grooves that progress through into more rigidness as well. Love the shift of the color grade. Love the solo moment from him. Love the camera too. It makes it feel more raw. Pop off. Whew. Oh my goodness, I love the trend of everybody wearing a darker neutral and BI wearing a lighter shade. It really feels that it's kind of an enlightenment for him. They're hitting these beats in such a great way. Love the visual shift there. Oh, good lord. That was really good. Wow. That was great. That was awesome. Sheesh. Let's get into it. Goodness gracious. Okay, from the top, I wasn't expecting it to hit so hard so quickly. I was expecting something more fundamental, more foundational. I love the grandma hit and kind of just switching. I can tell that they're really utilizing the lower half of their body while they're doing that. And the pocket in that he's choosing to sit is really is more of a leaned back pocket. It gives a chill vibe, but it goes so hard in the chest. So they're really utilizing their chest in such a way with their back. And honestly, it has a crump posture behind it, but they're not doing crump movement, if that makes sense. So a crump posture, there's a lot of throwing and a lot of just a lot of aggression, and that's just stemmed back from the culture of crump, and it's spiritual, it's raw, and it's meant to be that way. And so I find it so interesting. That's why I was so caught off guard that I was seeing a crump posture with street, like just party hip-hop party moves, you know. I mean, we see the whoa, and just we see a lot of those things that I'll touch on. That really caught me off guard seeing that. Yeah, we gotta replay that part. 내 이름. So I know 내 이름 is like, that's my name, right? So it's talking, he's talking about that. And it's so he uses his legs to reset and bring a groundedness to the lower half of the body while taking a break from how aggressive and how, not intricate, but how much was going on with the upper half there. So that was a really nice break from Youngbean. I'm gonna say this too. Every single Youngbean piece that I have seen, this BTBT, I don't know if I've seen some of his other stuff. I may have seen his like choreo in class. I really like his texture wheelhouse. I really like how he sits. I love his pocket, and I love how he chooses to interpret music. So if Youngbean ever sees this, hats off to you. If I ever have the privilege of meeting you, I will Google Translate this. If you don't know English very well, I will learn Korean just to say this to you. Thank you for your musicality choices. And I feel that based on just some of the interviews that I was watching while I was researching this, I can tell that you and B.I have a respect for each other, and I can definitely see that as a representation in his work, and the fact that you guys worked with each other on multiple projects, not just this. So kudos to you for that. As they hit, as they reset, but he still stays in that posture. He goes, and as he steps away, he allows his body to reset behind, and also recognize that sound as like, you know, and whenever you hear that sound, there's that kind of, not gag reflex, but something similar to that as he hits back. And that's where you see that torso get involved, or that chest get involved, to make it match that part of the music a lot better. So they reinstate like this kind of 2-hit is what they're doing, like with the 2 hits here and then the 2 hits here. It matches how he's saying it, but he's using different arm positions, so it looks different. So I really like that choice that he made. There, right there, so he goes hit, and then he hits right above. That section right there pops off. I think that's the first time you really hear that bass outside of the very beginning, where it picks up a little bit more, right? Where that bass is more prevalent, and he goes around with the snap. He hits around, but he doesn't stop the movement. So I want you to notice that. It's not a shamrock, but whenever you push the weight and you rotate around, so he recognizes that hi-hat influence sound as he does a leg out. So he has that fluidity in the lower half that's still grounded, but he's still throwing that hand just like he did to represent that sound. Yeah, so as he goes back, you notice that his hair reacted to it. So it goes boom. So he's actually doing something. I have a feeling he's doing a chest bop. So pops and bops are different. Pops are an external chest hit. A bop is an internal chest hit. Pop and popping and then bopping is their 2 different communities, and they're 2 different techniques. So for a lot of these movements, in order to execute them the way that you're seeing, is a lot of an internal hit. So it's engagement and flexing of the diaphragm and the collapsing between the chest and the rest of the torso. Not really collapsing, but you are flexing. So you notice that my voice started to change a little bit. You know that because of the diaphragm just being engaged in that way. And so I feel that that's what B.I is doing, is he's using that chest bop in order to make those things a lot heavier, but it keeps the other areas that are not around the chest more fluid and more loose, so you can still have that kind of hard-hitting stuff here. So I have a feeling some of these people are from 82 The Crew, which I think is great to be able to have dancers that understand your vibe to where you can use them in your choreography too. So he goes and he hits with this leg and he turns it out so it's more of a step, or it's more of not like a scuff. And that movement you do see a lot. He does that later on, but it's in a succession of 3. So he hits and then they do kind of a pas de bourrée behind it, or they hit behind. Just having, there's a lot of these grooves are so grounded and grimy that just by doing it with the type of fabric that they're wearing, going back and front with that rock and that swing motion, it really makes it look really big, even though the movement is simplistic or basic when you look at it in terms of the style it's representing. So he just did 2 hits. Notice he's just going 2 hits, pas de bourrée, 2 hits, pas de bourrée. But notice it just matches so well. It feels filthy. It feels in the best way possible. It feels like he is in every single word he's saying. And I did look up the English translation of this song before I watched this, because I wanted to understand what he was saying to some degree, while I was seeing the movement, just to see how the musicality is functioning here. And I absolutely love the choice of style they chose for this, because a lot of what he's saying is very raw. It is very real, because I do know some of the background as to why BI is a solo artist now. I know he was a part of a group and now he's going solo. I do know a lot of the back end of that, so I do feel like there's a lot of rawness behind his intention as an artist, at least in this session or section of his career. So just to see that type of posture or essence represented throughout this choreography, whether that was intended or not, is very respectable, and it makes me, it's so captivating, and it's really enjoyable to see that connection, and it makes me want to do it with them. Like right now, I kind of wish I was in one of these classes learning this choreo. This is so push out. He did kind of like it's kind of like a sugar, but it was actually a walk it out, like a walk it out with the legs, but in like a jazz or other technical styles, it's something called a sugar. And it was really nice to see how they still have that sitting in the pocket where they're tucking that pelvis under a little bit. It's a little bit more laid back, so as they push away, you still see that the posture has stayed very similar throughout the whole thing, just the movement's a little different. Yeah. Ooh, I love how it's just slow. And then he goes, hey, 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 hey. Just kind of changing up the texture and dynamics really makes it easier for the individual watching to digest it, because you don't want to go so hard the whole time. Notice he doesn't go hard the whole time. They're not doing all this stuff the whole time, even though his lyrics are going like that a lot. He's taking breaks and breathers, not because he needs it, but because if you want to digest what he's saying, sometimes it's more important for him to do less and you hear what he's saying. Because a lot of times whenever we're watching something, you notice if like you're driving and you turn the music down so you can see better. It's kind of like that, at least for me. But in this instance with choreography, if I'm giving you so much information, it's really hard to hear what all I want you to hear outside of what I'm hitting. So if he's not hitting all of the words and he's hitting just a bass, that bass sounds so nice. But I also want to hear those lyrics too, especially if it's a really raw part that he wants to really resonate with us as listeners, as well as people who are absorbing through visuals. I respect those choices, and I respect choreographers who have enough maturity within their craft to be okay with making those types of breaks in their movement. So I love that. Hit, just like a toe, hey, right? Forgive me if I mispronounce that, but I just love how those hit, and it's slow, and a groove. Like that was just one of those like body rolls. There's a lot of body rolls that I'm seeing in BI's movement range, probably because of the choreographer. And I'm always a fan whenever you use a body roll to help add some depth to something just like a throw of the arms. That's really nice. Oh, I need to go back and see that whole sequence. He goes up, waterfall. So he goes waterfall. So notice what I really liked about that was that he went up, and that was the end of the phrase before I went into the waterfall. But that kind of pull through, he turned it horizontal. Like it was crazy to go to the front, and then he kept it going but made it look different. So they kept that dynamic represented through the two different sections, and then he picked it up where he wanted to. That was really nice. It was like a run-on sentence, but done in the most tasteful way possible. That was great. And then he does it again. Do you notice that he stuck his tongue out right here? So when people do that, I've said this before, if you've seen any of my videos up to this point, when somebody sticks their tongue out like that, if you can tell in their face if there's a particular section of choreography that they are living in, that's an example right there. BI was living in that moment, because you would say this is like the key point of the choreo, right? Because it's the course, I believe, because he's mentioning waterfall, and that's the name of the track, so I'm just going to make that assumption. Just waterfall, just sitting in this groove. As somebody who has done this type of groove before, it feels great. And then if you imagine doing that based off of killing what you just did and knowing what you're about to do, it does feel nice. It's a breather movement in comparison to the other things that he's already done, and it's really nice to see. oh, and he goes da da da, and then it's heavy, and they use the arms to make it bigger, and then they throw it down. They could have made it small, da da da, but no, he went hey hey hey, because he wanted to have more of an aggression in that section. And then it smooths out, and it makes the smooth look so much better. So notice that, ready? So it's hit, and it goes wah, chill, ha ha ha. So he doesn't change what he says. Da da da, da da da. Like that stays the same through all of this. His dynamics and his movement doesn't stay the same, and that's why it's just so, it adds an extra level of captivation, like I've mentioned before. So when you go from something really smooth into hit, throw, into boom, boom, like that's really nice to feel as a dancer and probably see represented within your own music. So I am so glad that BI found Young Bean, because I believe he found him on Instagram. I think we're just watching his videos and being like, that was great. And I know BI originally wanted to learn from Young Bean, and then it turned into what it turned into. And so I think that's just such an organic way of finding someone to invest long term in when it comes to these types of projects. So kudos to that. That's just awesome. So it goes waterfall. So they go a hit. Now that movement they've done before, just in a different texture, but they've done it in that order. They did it to the side in the BT, and before the verse, I think, before the BT, before that section, because I remember learning that. And it does have that one in particular doesn't have any boogaloo affiliation, but I do know that kind of sequence you do see in a lot of popping boogaloo aesthetic. So I think that's a Young Bean fingerprint right there that I've noticed. And it goes hit, drop. I really love that there's a lot of movements that are happening when they're hitting, and then they drop and they throw it away, but they throw it away in a way that makes sense because there's a crash in the background. So everything is done with purpose. It's not just thrown away mindlessly. There's purpose behind it. And then there's a chill part. And they go, and it kind of feels like they did a whoa. I'm gonna assume they didn't. They waved it. And I like me a good wave, and it's waterfall, so when there's water, I would hope there's some waves. And because it's dropped out, like that section, they didn't need to do too much, and they didn't. They just added I don't know if it's a reverb or rebound. Let me see. Hit. So it's just 1, 2, 3. So it's a rebound. So the difference between a reverb and a rebound, the amount of energy that goes down is the same amount of energy that comes up. A reverb goes from big, and then it kind of subsides and evaporates in sound. So they were all very intentional about rebounding the same amount of time so they could all do the next section clean between the three of them. Yeah, so it goes, yeah, so he splits it into 2 notes. So they did 2 swipes there. That was great. That part right there, he goes, vroom, vroom. Then he backs up. And it's time for his moment. Just having a moment here. Listen to what he's saying. Guys, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this kind of choreo is probably one where it doesn't want to take away from him saying what he wants to say, but they're showing a more extroverted way of making that happen. So notice that even though he's not throwing a full elbow, he's not just keeping it internal. And whenever he's doing his arms, he's not dropping the elbows. The elbows are very much out. So a lot of those movements are showing a sense of, like when you converse, when you see rappers, when they rap, a lot of times they rap here. So having movement that's in this posture, I think really translates well to converting it from when he's just saying what he wants to say, like what I'm doing right now, into movement. It doesn't look like there's a disconnect. So I love that moment. I love the camera. I know I'm analyzing the dancing. I really like the camera moment there. I don't know if that was an intentional choice, but it adds to the rawness of what we're watching, because when you have a camera that's not stable and it's kind of moving to and fro, it feels like a home video, right? Where it feels like an amateur video, or it has a sense of realness to it. I guess, more so than something manufactured. And I think that was a great moment they had there, even though he's not really dancing in that moment. I don't think he is, but the dancing and the camera work are collaborating to get the intention of what he's saying across, not just his movements. And I love the color grade too. Hit and hit, hit and across. That was a nice little speed change of him just kind of doing a little pivot and then reinstating to the front there. And it goes 1, 2, down. Like that right there with that setup of the do-do-doom. That for me, after just seeing him pop off like that, it makes me so ready to see what this is about to happen right here. That was good. Boom, boom, boom. I love whenever you have a 3-hit progression. And then when they're just grooving out, it just feels powerful. When you do an all unison section like that and you have everybody hitting it in a very similar way, it just leaves yourself more powerful. And because the drop of this is the way that it is, it makes sense that they made that choice to all stay together. And so they hit, boom. And the reason why BI looks so aggressively big in moving, and I see this is the most replayed section, the reason why he looks so big here is because of not only what he's wearing white and everybody else is wearing black. And notice that the color grading has really promoted yellow as more of that primary accented color that really shows off well on BI's costume. And on the black, it kind of gets absorbed, so you don't see it as much. Oh, let me go back. And so they hit, boom, 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 watch, wow, wow. And so his outfit really helps with that, but he's using his chest as he's sitting down into it. And whenever you stomp your foot, you're stomping with the heel, not really the toe. When you roll through with the toe, it does have a softer reaction or product, but whenever you use that heel as the main point, it's going to come across sharper. So that's probably why they use that choice. And so they once again did a lot of these hits, and this posture is very nuanced into krump. I don't know if this is a krump inspired section, but it feels very much that way, which goes back to what I said before. The other party style that they were doing earlier had a krump like essence about it. It wasn't krump though, but this has more of a krump nuances that are more recognizable for me. So I see that these are different styles compared to the beginning to the end, but it still works because of the things I said before, because of the rawness connection, because of the posture connection, because of the intention behind the movement connection. So this is so fun. There, these points right here. A lot of times these are like jabs in krump. So yeah, there has to be a krump influence here. I will be shocked if there's not, because that screams krump to me. Yeah. Boom and dig and up, hit. I love the nice little kick there. So a lot of times you notice he's been throwing his arms, but it is nice that you see him use his leg to kick the bass. And it sounds like he kicked the bass with his foot. That's a nice music moment. 1, boom, boom, boom. So he hits it, then says back, and he goes 1, 2, 3. And I think I mentioned that it happened earlier. And so there is connections or fingerprints of other movements happening, but it doesn't look recycled and overly done. And there's nothing wrong with a lot of groups that use choreography, that like the same choreo in multiple courses, but it is really nice when you're doing a concept video or doing something like this. It's very tasteful whenever you see them use fingerprints of movements, so nuances of movements or movements done in different sequences or in different ways, in different formations, or in different dynamics to different parts of your music. So that was a great choice for them to do that here. And they have the rawness of the camera, right? And they're just kind of hitting. And they're using, when you lock up your torso as you hit, that's where you get more of the power coming from the lower half, and it's very stiff at the top, and that's where you get that texture when you walk. And they're adding a bounce, and he just does a nice little moment where he looks and he controls everybody around him. So he's triggering them to look this way and look that way, and his hand is controlling everyone. And that's just a nice, he's the only one that's kind of in it for himself, and everybody else is, their head is up. And that's a really small shift, but it makes a huge difference in these cases. He goes, drops them down. New formation, I mentioned, I really like the formation shift here. I love the nuance and how to get there. Everything has a purpose and everything has a reason. I think it's great that you can see that. I'm glad I slowed it down because I'm able to see that and appreciate that more than if I just watched it once. My only thing here is that at the very end, well, this is just something, it doesn't really matter, but it's just something I noticed, because you notice these guys are really shifting out very big. In comparison, he's very chill here. And so I just feel that he could have gone bigger with his movement to make the guys who are low not appear so forceful in their movement. But I know that there's other dancers with BI doing this too, so maybe the guys who are lower should have been a little bit more chill to keep it, or they were trying to really keep the bass in check too. So it could be purposeful where they have more of an attack, and the people who are standing up, they are more chill, which both are fine, because once again, I didn't choreograph this, I'm just appreciating it. So that was just the only thing that I noticed personally. That was a nice chill part right there. So he knows his music. He's a part of the production of the music, the lyricism, the concepts, costuming, probably how he wants it to come across, maybe color grading, I don't know all of that, but he is a part of multiple facets of his own work, and a lot of artists aren't, especially in the K-pop world. I really feel like a lot of us see this and know this to be, they don't really get as much of a say in what kind of concepts they pursue if they're a part of a group of a large agency, unless the concept works, and then they stick to it, and that becomes their identity as that artist. So for me, I think that this is a really interesting thing to see, that this was probably one of the first, I'm assuming, of his works outside of being the leader of Icon. And I really like the fact that you can tell how intimate his investment in his work is. And it makes me really respect him as an artist. And it makes me so happy of the fact that even the choice of who he chose to choreograph for him, it feels more relational and it feels more personal, which makes me want to appreciate and see where his music goes more as a fellow artist within a different vein or a different lane in the industry. So fabulous. Thank you for recommending this for me. My mind this far exceeded my expectations of what to expect, and I'm so glad that I hadn't seen it and I got to experience it for the first time alongside you guys. So thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful in some way. I hope I was able to pick out something that maybe we both realized together, something new. And I'm always open for recommendations. If you want me to look at another BI video, I'm open to it. If there's another artist that you feel that I would greatly appreciate looking at for the first time, I would love to hear it. You can drop it in the comments. Thank you guys, and I'll catch you later.